Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am your host, Sandy Shellis, and tonight is a last week in collapse. And I got a packed show for you guys tonight. And I see people are joining, and I'm really glad people are joining. That's good. That's good. A lot of stuff going on out there. What a day. I had a busy day, busy inside, spent a little bit too much time online. But you got to get your stuff going, right? So, hello, everyone. Let me say hi. Kim, thank you for moderating. Hello, Jean. Thank you for moderating. Tommy is singing way. Old Sage Joe. Stephen, hi. Great to see you guys tonight. And I got to get started because like I said, I have a very packed show. So hang on and we will get this going. Get the show on the road. Okay. All right. So tonight, we're going to do again the last weekend collapse. And like I said, there's a lot happening. So we're going to get started and get right into this so that I can, well, you know, educate you. I'm going to learn you up. All right. So here we go. And while you're joining me, let me just fix something so I can see all my messages because sometimes I can't. And I'm going to unpin the message so it doesn't annoy people. And here we go. Here we go. This is happening. The European Environment Agency, the EEA, released its first ever climate risk assessment, which is, whoops, not that one, this one, the European agency right here. Okay. And I think you can all hear me. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. This is the European climate risk assessment that we're talking about. And it's a 40-page executive summary. It summarizes an unedited 425-page full report. In short, prevention and adaptation are falling far short of what would be necessary to resist global climate change. Particular urgent and dangerous risks highlighted in the summary include aquatic ecosystem collapse, southern European carbon sinks, heat stress. There were 60,000 premature deaths across Europe in 2022, shrinking crop production, particularly in southern Europe, and river coastal flooding, wildfires, especially in southern Europe, insurance markets, Europe solidarity mechanisms, and water scarcities, predominantly in southern Europe, extreme heat, drought, wildfires, flooding, as experienced in recent years, will worsen in Europe even under optimistic global warming scenarios and affect living conditions throughout the continent. No doubt other continents will face many of the same problems. So if you're interested in this report, the link will be in the show notes. All right. What we're going to do, I want to go through this graph. We're going to start right in there with the graphs. And this one is, it's a pretty good one. And what it shows, and you can see it. All right, so this is the observed and projected trends in key climatic, climatic risk drivers in different European regions. So we're going to talk about Europe. We have a lot of friends from Europe. We are, have a kinship to Europe. So the legend is increase, decrease, and no change. Well, what I want to show you is Northern Europe, Western Europe, Central Eastern Europe, and Southern Europe, and the land regions and showing mean temperature, heat wave days, total precip, heavy precip, and drought. So what's interesting, it goes up to increase and down to decrease. And underlying climate variables are the heat waves, which are days with maximum temperatures above 35 C, which is what, 95 C of F, heavy precip, maximum 1 day precip, and drought using a standardized precipitation evapotranspiration index over 6 months. Time periods and scenarios are past, 1952 to 2021, future until the end of the century, 2081 to 2100, relative to 1995 and 2014. The low scenario, which is the SSP 1, 2.6, and high scenario, IPCC, SSP 3 to 7.0. So let's look at Northern Europe. Northern Europe, past and future. Northern Europe is pretty much going up. And what was interesting was the drought risk is low, and it's low in the future too. All right, but everything else is going up high. Western Europe, same thing pretty much, except there's no under the lows. There's nothing, but in total precip in Western Europe, it went down. It's going to go down in the future. Central Eastern Europe, you see, okay, right here, low, high, and then we see the past, but we see how in the future things are going up in all these mean temperature, heat wave days, total precip, heavy precip, and drought. And in Southern Europe, we also see pretty much the same total precip, maybe a little drier though in the future. See how it's drier? But heavy precip will go up. And that means that the storms, while there may not be, it'll go down in total, the heavy will make floods happen. It'll be heavy when it happens. So that I thought was an interesting one to share with you guys, actually. And this is the map. Oh, and that was from Copernicus. And this is the map of the extreme extent of drought at the beginning of August 2022. Ecosystems, wildfires, water supply, hydropower, energy, nuclear, agriculture. But right now it says in this, the drought was combined drought indicator in 2022, which was warning, a lot of warnings, not a lot of recovery. There was no drought in areas, right? But ecosystems, major fish death along the Oder River, wildfires in 2023, 175,000 hectares burned in Greece, 97,000 hectares in Italy, 88,000 hectares in Spain, and 36,000 hectares in Portugal. Water supply. More than 100 municipalities had water supply problems in France. Hydropower, low hydropower production in Southern Europe and Central Europe. In the energy sector, nuclear, decrease in nuclear power production in France due to lack of cooling water. Could that be a blessing in disguise? Agriculture. 30 to 60% of total economic damage across Europe, largest in Italy, Spain, and France. And that was based on combined drought indicator of the JRC, European Drought Observatory, and some key impacts in different sectors. Now, here's an interesting one. We'll look at this. This is the impact chain for selected climactic and non-climactic impact drivers, okay? So you can see there's a lot of relationship between this, and I'll read the notes so you can kind of get it and you understand. Impact chain for selected climactic, heat, drought, storms, and non-climactic drivers. Wood harvest, fuel management, nutrients, their influence on forest disturbances, forest carbon pools, and feedback with climate. Fire ignitions are not represented as they can be both climactic and human-driven, or is this climatic? And I'm saying climactic. Okay, well, whatever. Human-driven, but in Europe, and human igniters account for over 95% of the fires, and those are the people that take advantage of horrible conditions and, the pyromaniacs. The most relevant and direct impacts on economic sectors are also shown. All right, so note that some of the arrows continue underneath the boxes, so the corresponding link should be followed to the head of the arrow. Fuel management and fire suppression influence forest fires, not tree defense. So let's just look a little bit at the top. And I won't spend too much time because I have an awful lot of material to go through. But storms, warmer winters, heat waves, reduced precip. So let's look at storms. And we look and the storms go down. Oh my goodness, storms affect tree mortality. Isn't that interesting? And warmer winters affect let's see, increased insect survival and reproduction, insect outbreaks. Um, and then you go down and you see forest fires from the warmer winters. I mean, this is really all connected. There's so much that's connected here. Heat waves, fire goes down to fire weather, right? But also into droughts. And then that goes down into reduced forest productivity or growth, right? Forest fires, also tree mortality, risk to forest ecosystems, and the carbon sink. You look and see how the insect outbreaks go all the way to increased disturbance and migration costs. And you wouldn't think that, right? But that's the storms too. But it has a relationship. So everything has a relationship here. And it's really interesting. And I will definitely have the link in the show notes. Elevated CO2, see everything. A lot of things, risk to forest ecosystems and the carbon sink, how that goes up in a dotted line to elevated CO2. But there's a lot here. So I definitely will. I think you guys, yeah, you like this. All right, so winter storms. We're going to move to India. We were in Europe. Winter storms are coming later than usual to India, and when they arrive in the late spring, are fiercer than ever before. The lack of snowpack, which gradually melts and provides consistent irrigation water through the spring, has been replaced by sudden voluminous floods, which do not ration water as well. The rapid warming of the Tibetan plateau is fueling a stronger jet stream that powers more frequent and intense storms, while the jet stream is increasingly lingering at southerly latitudes later into spring and summer, allowing more storms to strike North India after the winter snow season. Pretty serious for India. Temperature records were broken in West and South Africa. Now, let me see if I had, no, I did. I don't think I did. No, we're not there yet. I highlighted a few of them that I thought, I wanted to go into a little bit more. Look at Africa. A number of Latin American locations have also broken March records for all-time heat, including 46.5 C, which is 116 degrees Fahrenheit in part of Mexico in the central part. Hobart, Tasmania's capital, saw its hottest night in 112 years, and that's what I wanted to go to show you this. See, the links are all, he does such a great job, Jared does. These are all links that I've seen all week that people have collated on X and Facebook, but it's all in one place for me. And Hobart endures hottest night in 112 years as severe heat wave hits southern eastern Australia. Now, the only thing is, what happened 112 years ago? That's kind of what I try to find. That made it it's a hottest night in 112 years. What was going on 112 years ago, right? But Hobart, they sweltered through the city's hottest night in 112 years as a severe heat wave continues to affect large parts of southeast Australia. Extreme heat is forecast to continue across South Australia, Victoria, Tasmania, and southern New Wales for several days, the Bureau of Meteorology said on Sunday, after record temperatures caused the cancellation of long weekend events. So last Saturday was the hottest March day on record for Edithburgh on South Australia's Yorke Peninsula, 47.7, and Canaguk, 40.6 in Western Victoria. Yeah, pretty bad, huh? It's hot there. It's really hot. Now, scientists are allegedly, though, in dispute over whether these anomalies are really beyond climate predictions. And no, wait, I don't think I put that one in. So let's see. What are they in? They're in dispute. Did I look at this one? It's taken an awful long time. Okay, here they are. They're decided on, they're all divided. Is it the climate crisis? What is it? Some believe global anomalies are in line with predictions, but others are more concerned by speed of change. So, record temperatures in 2024 on land and at sea have prompted scientists to question whether these anomalies are in line with predicted global heat patterns or if they represent a concerning acceleration of climate breakdown. Heat above the oceans remains persistently freakishly high despite a weakening El Nino, and which has been one of the major drivers of record global temperatures over the last year. Scientists are divided about the extraordinary temperatures of marine air, and we know this. I mean, you just have to think about this. Earth's great heat moderator and absorb more than the seas, the oceans. They absorb more than 90%. And Jim Massett tells us this all the time. February sea surface temperatures reached record-breaking highs. But these people are arguing about it. They're arguing about it. So let them. All right. Let them dispute. Now here, we're going to change gears a little. Shell Oil is backtracking on its sustainability pledges in 33-page energy transition report in 2024. Now, let me see if that was nope, that wasn't this one. What did I do with Shell? Oh, here we are. Shell's wonderful page. How are we doing on our journey to net zero as we deliver more value with less emissions? Which is probably a bunch of, yeah. Our first energy transition update since 2021 is the opportunity to take stock of our progress. And I'm rejecting their cookies. I don't want their cookies. But anyway, here's their key areas of energy transition. Their beliefs: leading integrated gas, advanced upstream, differentiated downstream, energy transition and action, targets and ambitions, and their performance. So their core beliefs about the energy system inform their strategy. Liquefied natural gas, of course, will play a critical role in the energy transition, including replacing coal in industry. Oil will have a continued role in transport, with growth in demand slowing over time. Low carbon molecules and renewable power will underpin the future energy system, and carbon abatement and removal solutions will be needed for the world to achieve net zero. Carbon solutions, you say? Carbon credits and carbon offsets. Is it bullshit? Is it greenwashing? Well, what they are right here is the offsets. The objective is to counteract the impact of expected emissions by investing in projects that reduce emissions. The primary audience for carbon offsets is individuals and companies. It's voluntary. And the megatons of carbon captured, 512. Average price of carbon is $2. Carbon credits serve as an economic deterrent against future emissions. Companies in regulated sectors like power, industrials, and transportation, mandated by regulation here, the credits. And megatons of carbon captured, 9,160 and $27. Another way to think about it is that carbon offsets are not unlike the indulgences of medieval Christianity, and in the sense that people buy them in order to atone for their environmental sins. Meanwhile, carbon credits are more like a toll on an expressway. A government may actually require companies to pay in order to emit, and carbon credits are the fare for the right to do so. However, Shell, it appears as if they've entirely abandoned their 2035 target for emissions and are leaning further into LNG extraction and away from renewable energy production. So last year, Shell abandoned its carbon offset efforts to refocus on its core market, which is fossil fuels. Now we're going to move to Mexico City. They have a water shortage, and we know water is going to be a big problem. It already is a big problem. So Mexico has water shortage. Meanwhile, England just had its wettest 18 months since records began 188 years ago. And a study on Scotland's 125,000 plus kilometers of rivers, which is 77,000 miles, and concluded that river temperatures are warming with downstream effects on industry and ecology. Now, we're going to move a little. Scientists, they are appealing the decision regarding the proposed Anthropocene epoch, which was rejected 2 weeks ago, which we talked about last week, by a committee of geologists. So I want to get to, where is it? I'm sorry, I thought I had them all set up, but I guess I don't. I had, oh, here it is. Sorry. Forgive me. Thought I had them all set up, but viewpoint. What the Anthropocene's critics overlook and why it really should be a new geological epoch. Okay. So, and I had something else. Oh, okay. I was going to read to you. So I found it. Basically, this is the historic timeline they want to use. You can see it. Let me see if I can get down a little bit. I don't know. I gotta see here. All right. No, it's not wanting to move. All right. We're just going to look geological time, and we're looking at the Pleistocene and the Holocene, and they want to call this the Anthropocene because of these suggested markers. And you can see that there are different things that would make this be the Anthropocene, right? But they voted it down. The geologists voted it down. But I wanted to show you what Paul Crutzen wrote in 2002 about the geology of mankind. So for the past 3 centuries, the effects of humans on the global environment have escalated because of these anthropogenic emissions of carbon dioxide. Global climate may depart significantly from natural behavior for many millennia to come. It seems appropriate to assign the term Anthropocene to the present, in many ways human-dominated geological epoch, supplementing the Holocene, the warm period of the past 10 to 12 millennia. The Anthropocene could be said to have started in the latter part of the 18th century, when analysis of air trapped in polar ice showed the beginning of growing global concentrations of carbon dioxide and methane. This date also happens to coincide with James Watt's design of the steam engine. Mankind's growing influence on the environment, this is pretty interesting, I think, was recognized as long ago as 1873 when the Italian geologist Antonio Stoppani spoke about a new telluric force in which power and universality may be compared to the greater forces of Earth, referring to the Anthropozoic era. And in 1926, V.I. Vernadsky acknowledged the increasing impact of mankind, the direction in which the processes of evolution must proceed, namely towards increasing consciousness and thought, and forms having greater and greater influence on their surroundings. Desjardins and Vernadsky, they used the term noosphere, the world of thought, to mark the growing role of human brain power in shaping its own future and environment. The rapid expansion of mankind in numbers and per capita exploitation of Earth's resources has continued apace. During the past 3 centuries, the human population has increased tenfold to more than 6 billion, which is actually 8 billion now, and is expected to reach 10 billion in the century. The methane producing cattle population has risen to 1.4 billion. About 30 to 50% of the planet's land surface is exploited by humans, and I would contend it might be more. Tropical rainforests disappear at a fast pace. So you see, he's making a case, for why we are in the Anthropocene. And these guys, they're not, they are, well, let me find what. Oh, why the opposition? Many geologists used to working with millions of years, the millions of years, right? Find it hard to accept an epoch just 7 decades long. That's just one human lifetime. Yet evidence suggests that the Anthropocene is very real. Environmental scientist Early Ellis was one critic who welcomed the decision, stating in the conversation, if there was one main reason why geologists rejected the proposal, it is because its recent date and shallow depth are too narrow to encompass the deeper evidence of human-caused planetary change, which actually, I say bullshit. But Crutzen, who we just were talking about, was wholly different. He said the Earth system, that is really fundamental things like atmospheric composition, climate, all ecosystems, had recently sharply departed from the stability that they had shown for thousands of years during the Holocene, a stability which allowed human civilization to grow and flourish. But it makes no sense, Crutzen said, to use the Holocene for the present time. He conceived the Anthropocene as the time when human impacts are intensified suddenly, dramatically enough to push the Earth into a new state. And the science journalist Andrew Wevkin, who thought up the name Anthropocene even before Crutzen's inspiration, aptly called it the Big Zoom. So there you go. The controversy in just simply calling it the Anthropocene, which we've kind of been calling it for a while, and it is because of humanity. Okay, so they're appealing the decision. Now we're going to move on. This is pretty messed up. Other geologists discovered reserves of gas hydrates off the Philippines coast, which may be used for energy and CO2 production. Now, I don't like this at all. And I think, no, I'm going to go back. I got to read. I want to get this. Because these hydrates, it's going to require drilling. And, they may say, oh, this is so, maybe later, it's so fantastic. But let me explain to you what this is. These gas hydrates are a great alternative energy source, but they could harm us in the environment. Note the geologist from the University of Philippines. Much like carbonated drinks are water infused with carbon dioxide, gas hydrates are ice, mostly infused with methane, a natural gas used as fuel. Gas hydrates are ice-like substances that usually only form beneath the seafloor, where the pressure is high and the temperature is just below the water's freezing point of 0 Celsius. So let's move down a little bit because I want to talk about, all right, here we go. So, but they can be a geologic and environmental threat. They can be 200 to 500 meters below. And they are down there in the Manila Trench. But because they're unstable solids, they will dissociate and melt when the conditions in which they form change, usually during earthquakes. Worryingly, the Manila Trench is an active margin responsible for numerous earthquakes in western Luzon. When gas hydrates melt, it will agitate the seafloor, possibly triggering submarine landslides and tsunamis. Moreover, methane can harm the environment when released into the atmosphere. It's a potent gas that contributes to global warming, and just 1 cubic meter block of gas hydrates contains as many as 160 cubic meter blocks of methane in its gas form. So it's equivalent to 14% of average Filipinos' methane emissions in 2021. But they're looking at more investigations, but basically it's going to be future drilling. Okay, future drilling. That's what it is. Future drilling. It's just more bullshit. All right. So now we go from the Philippines. Meanwhile, the American EPA concluded that the methane emissions from the United States are actually triple the government's projections. That's quite nice, isn't it? We're going to move though. We know England's largest rhododendron bush flowered a month earlier than usual as a result of record warm temperatures last month, and it's happening at my house too. Trees are growing across the Brooks Range in northern Alaska, where once there was frozen earth. Other trees in the area have shown incredible growth in recent years due to warming temperatures. And now a study in Nature Communication determined that increasing the aerosol emissions out of Southeast Asia has been contributing to the slowdown of AMOC for about 30 years. So that was also in the news, and it was all over X, and everybody talking about, is this it again? This is, again, AMOC is a big subject, and I'm not going to go into it too in depth, but again, and this was because of aerosols, but I wanted to get that study up really quickly and show you. I don't know why everything takes so long to come out. I thought I had all this shit pulled up. It was very interesting to read about this. All right, so I just wanted to read about really quickly. Okay. They are anthropogenic aerosols. Asian anthropogenic aerosols continue to increase, but the associated impact has been unclear. So the increased AAs over Asia generate circumglobal stationary Rossby waves in the northern mid-latitudes, which shift the westerly jet stream southward, and it weakens the subpolar North Atlantic westerlies. Consequently, reduced transport of cold air from North America hinders water mass transformation in the Labrador Sea and thus contributes to the AMOC slowdown. The link between increased Asian anthropogenic aerosols and an AMOC slowdown is supported by different models with different configurations. Thus, reducing emissions of them will not only lower local air pollution, but help stabilize the AMOC. So we'll learn more about this when Jim comes back. So you hold on to that thought. Now we're moving on. Okay, well, here we go. A man in New Mexico died of the bubonic plague. Now that's pretty scary, don't you think? Yersinia pestis last week, marking the first plague death in the state since 2020. Researchers are attempting to track down a possible source of infection. The scale of Zambia's cholera outbreak is reversing decades of progress made in the region to stymie the deadly bacterial disease. The pandemic is compounded by rising malaria cases and the strain these illnesses are having on the entire healthcare system, which is understaffed and lacking equipment and medicine. Dengue fever is ripping across Brazil following its conquest of Peru, Paraguay, Argentina, and spreading ever faster, right? Vaccines are in incredibly short supply, and although production is scaling up, vaccines are expected to remain in high demand 5 years from now. Some countries, like Argentina, are selling the dengue vaccine, which lasts for, around 6 years, for about $45 USD, but that's 1/4 of the nation's minimum monthly salary. So, trouble in paradise. The so-called man in the iron lung, who was dependent on the device after contracting polio 72 years ago, was killed by COVID last week. He was 78. I looked at the article and I'm trying to figure out how the hell he got COVID. Some scientists believe We are close to eradicating polio again after 19 weeks of no new infections. It's been 1 year since a case of polio was detected in New York State's wastewater. I learned all about that stuff going on. This guy was kind of amazing, though, this dude in the iron lung. And he went to school, he became an attorney. He lived his entire life like that. How he got COVID, hell if I know. I honestly, guys, there was no way to know. All right, we're going to move on to long COVID. Across the United States, long COVID symptoms are spiking. The CDC estimates that about 7% of Americans have symptoms. What do y'all suppose the real figure is? An Australian health official claimed that we should stop using the term long COVID because its symptoms aren't so different from post-flu, although that's not at all true. Depending on when you consider the official start of the pandemic, it has been 4 years since our collective COVID emergency took off and 4 years since the COVID stock market crash. So there's a problem. And a lot of people are being hit with, not only do they get COVID, but they have symptoms. Could be up to 6 months. We don't even know. The research is just starting. All right. In South Georgia, a British island in the far South Atlantic Ocean has recorded 10 cases of avian flu among its penguins, of which there are several different species. The virus was expected to make landfall on the historic breeding and gathering point for some time, and scientists are concerned that H5N1 will spread rapidly among the crowded birds and perhaps beyond. And, well, we got to talk about the chocolate. Cocoa prices hit record highs at $7,000 a ton. Chocolate prices are expected to continue rising. Reuters reports that the number of American preppers has doubled since 2017 and diversified among fears of political unrest. You think? Spain and Italy's appetite for Argentinian grain for their animals is driving deforestation and illegal logging. Amateurs talk about tactics, but professionals study logistics. China's shipbuilding industry for commercial ships is far and away leading the world, spelling concern for the U.S.-led order, which secures the safety for most ocean-faring trade. Last year, the U.S. produced 10 ships, less than 1% of global ship production, while China produced 1,000 plus. The vast majority of port cranes are also manufactured in China, and the global logistics software is run by China. More ships is more consumption. Now we move. Bangalore, 24 million people. In India, it's facing a water shortage amid a water dispute with a neighboring state. Parts of at least of 12 West Central African countries have lost internet. Did you hear about that last week? After critical subsea cables were disturbed. And then there's tension over TikTok, arguably the world's most popular app, may lead to its forcible sale or prohibition in a handful of countries. UN personnel are warning of catastrophic hunger coming to Sudan this spring. Save the Children claims that over 220,000 people, mostly children, will die if their hunger is not alleviated. Famine is also growing in Gaza and in Haiti too. Famine, disease, and war cause most deaths in collapse, wrote one recently deceased collapsnik, and that was that was John Scales Avery. That's the collapsnik. So we've got a lot of problems with hunger and food, and it's just pretty damn pretty damn sad. UN warns of catastrophic hunger in Sudan in coming months. I mean, we're just going to keep seeing more and more of this. Nearly 5 million people in Sudan could suffer catastrophic hunger in parts of the war-torn country in the coming months, United Nations aid chief Martin Griffiths warned the Security Council on Friday in a note seen by Reuters. Griffiths said acute levels of hunger were being driven by the severe impact of the conflict on agricultural production, damage to major infrastructure and livelihoods, disruption to trade flows, severe price increases, impediments to humanitarian access, and large-scale displacement. And that's in Sudan. 730,000 children throughout Sudan are projected to suffer severe acute malnutrition. Lovely. Just lovely. Oh, and then we're going to go to the global arms market. They're experiencing change, and France is catching up with many of the world's strongest nations. The top 5 arms exports are now United States, of course, France, Russia, China, and Germany. Russia and Germany have seen double-digit declines, though, in arms sales. Ukraine, unsurprisingly, is currently the world's largest recipient of arms. And there is a searchable database. I'll put the link in, but it'll all be in the article. It was very interesting, but it is quite a lot. And so I'm really not going to go into it, but you can imagine, right? You can imagine. North Korea has rolled out a new tank, which it first unveiled in 2020. Kim Jong-un has also ordered the soldiers to prepare for war, but it's not the first time. How many times will he say that before something actually happens? And then artificial intelligence. That's posing a great threat to national security, says a new report from the U.S. State Department. The full 284-page report is available only upon request, but a 13-page executive summary is readily available. So the recent explosion of progress in advanced artificial intelligence has brought great opportunities, but is also creating entirely new categories of weapons of mass destruction, and weapons of mass destruction enabling catastrophic risks. Just what we need. The risks associated with these developments are global in scope, have deeply technical origins, and are evolving quickly. As a result, policymakers face a diminishing opportunity to introduce technically informed safeguards that can balance these considerations and ensure that advanced AI is developed and adopted reasonably or responsibly. Competitive dynamics, risk triggering an AGI arms race, and increase the likelihood of global and weapons of mass destruction, scale fatal accidents, interstate conflict, and escalation. And that was an excerpt from that executive summary. I don't know if I'm going to write to get it or not. Now we're going to move to a controversial bill in India. Wow. It excludes Muslims. It's nearing its passage into law. Thank you, Modi. With the result that some politicians are calling for protests. 14% of India is currently Muslim. Meanwhile, Sudan's government army has retaken the TV and radio broadcasting station held by the insurgents for 11 months. Oh, and now there's another mass children kidnapping event in Nigeria. The gunmen seek ransom payments. Now, here's an interesting one. UNICEF reports that while the percent of girls suffering from female genital mutilation, FGM, has dropped considerably in many countries, over the last 30 years, there is a trend to cut girls at younger and younger ages, and the number of all overall victims continues to rise. Dramatic. It's disgusting. But that's, again, women are, I think you can't compare it to the circumcision. You can't. The number of girls and women have undergone female genital mutilation has increased by 15%. Figures released by the UN Children's Agency show that more than 230 million girls and women alive today have undergone FGM, compared with 200 million in 2016. What the fuck? The trend is towards girls being cut at a younger age. Female genital mutilation harms girls' bodies, dims their future, and endangers their lives, she said. We're also seeing a worrying trend that more girls are subjected to the practice at younger ages. God, doesn't that just really kind of make you sick? God. Many before their fifth birthday. That further reduces the window to intervene. We need to strengthen the efforts of ending the harmful practice. Well, what I want to do is go down a little bit. It's removing the external parts, and what they do it in Africa, Asia, the Middle East, Somalia, Guinea, Djibouti, Egypt, Sudan, and Mali. They have the highest rates. They are also countries dealing with other urgent issues, such as conflict, climate shocks, and food insecurity, which makes it harder to deliver programs. So while they are being fucked by the climate, they are destroying women, basically. The men are taking control. Men want control. And I am surprised that Republican men have not gotten hip to this. Trust me. Besides a chastity belt, you think that they wouldn't try this. So these are all the countries that practice this. And, many African countries have experienced a steady decline, but overall progress has been stalled. It's Kenya, they criminalized the practice in 2011. They witnessed a steady decline in it, but activists remain concerned. So, isn't that lovely? That's what's going on. As a survivor, I know all about the devastating consequences that female genital mutilation has on women and girls, said Ali. The new estimate showing a huge increase of 30 million more effective is not just shocking, but personally devastating, especially when we know what works. And we could have prevented this from happening. What the fuck? I'm sorry. Women, today I was angry. And I was angry about mansplaining. But I'm not going to go into that too much. Now we're moving on. Details are emerging on how the United States intends to construct a floating pier in Gaza so that the relief organizations can deliver 2 million meals a day in the besieged territory. Some aid is already arriving by sea. Some officials claim that Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war. Rafah, a city in southern Gaza that now shelters 1.4 million people in Gaza, saw two-thirds of the total population. Some two-thirds of the total population is the target of Israel's latest offensive, perhaps its last major site in Gaza. Now, American politicians seem to be reconsidering supplying weapons to Israel if the Rafah offensive yields substantial civilian suffering and the war continues to divide European nations. Now, I just wanted to say today I had seen that Jared Kushner was discussing just moving everybody, all the Palestinians out of Gaza and putting them in the desert and developing the strip. Quite interesting. I didn't pull it up. I don't think I pulled it up. But I do have this from the BBC. Starvation is being used as a weapon. It's a weapon. It's disgusting. We got to get rid of this guy, Netanyahu. Anyway, he's vowed to press on with the offensive. And now we know that they're chopping at the bit to develop it. I'm waiting for Jared Kushner to say, and drill off the coast. I should have pulled that one up, but I didn't. So, analysts believe a regional conflict is more likely to be triggered by Hezbollah than from Gaza or the Houthis. Ramadan has begun, a ceasefire has not arrived, and the lingering threat of unexploded ordnance aggravates the ongoing traumatizing bombardments. Look at that. You see it? You see what a mess that is? What we've done? And the world has watched. And the world has watched. Violent riots in Nigeria targeted grain warehouses across the country, according to reports. Last month, 7 people were killed in a stampede at a Lagos auction selling off heaps of stolen rice. China's blaming India for raising tensions by stationing 10,000 more Indian soldiers near its Himalayan border. Afghan terrorists detonated a vehicle at a Pakistani military border outpost, killing a few. A 12-hour battle in Mogadishu by al-Shabaab killed 3 soldiers and injured 27 before all 5 attackers were slain. Violence in eastern DRC is chasing even more people to Goma, a city already once, one of the most dangerous in the world. Russian strikes in Odessa killed 20, injuring 70 plus. France, Germany, and Poland agreed to supply more weapons to Ukraine, while Greece is arming Ukraine more following a missile strike 2 weeks ago near the visiting Greek prime minister. The UN released a report a few weeks ago breaking down how tens of thousands of civilian casualties killed and wounded were caused in Ukraine. So it's not just Gaza. We forget about Ukraine. The casualties. Maybe it's not 30,000, but it's pretty bad. All right, so NATO's largest drill in 30 years is happening in Europe, while a Chinese-Russian-Iranian drill occurs in the Gulf of Oman. The U.S. intelligence community released its annual threat assessment report for 2024. Its 41 pages lack a single graphic, but are loaded with interpretation of global threats in a fragile world. Denmark is boosting defense spending and conscripting women. An ambitious but anxious China, a confrontational Russia, some regional powers such as Iran, and more comparable non-state actors are challenging long-standing rules of the international system as well as U.S. primacy within it. Simultaneously, new technologies, fragilities in the public health sector, and environmental changes are more frequent, often have global impact, are harder to forecast. So that's something. Economic strain is further stoking this instability. And around the world, multiple states are facing rising and, in some cases, unsustainable debt burdens, economic spillovers from the war in Ukraine, and an increased cost and output losses from extreme weather events, even as they continue to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. While global agricultural food commodity prices retreated from their 2022 peak, domestic food price inflation remains high in many countries, and food security in many countries remains vulnerable to economic and geopolitical shocks. The fields of AI and biotechnology in particular are rapidly advancing, with convergence among various fields of science and technology, and it probably will result in further breakthroughs. The accelerating effects of climate change are placing more of the world's population, particularly in low and middle income countries, at greater risk from extreme weather, food insecurity, water insecurity, humanitarian disaster, fueling migration flows, and increasing the risks of future pandemics as pathogens exploit the changing environment. And that's excerpts from that report, which I did not download. And Kenya is once again suspending its plan to send 1,000 police officers to Haiti, leading a stabilization mission in the failed state, which has now seen its prime minister resign, leaving a complete vacuum of political authority. All Haitian senators had previously left in January of 2023, 18 months after their president was assassinated, and never replaced. A motley crew of warlords and gang bosses now jockeys for power, resources, and even legitimacy against several thousand police officers, criminals, and terrorized citizens who may be claimed as prizes or activated into action in the panicked and chaotic violence. The Dominican Republic is deporting Haitians back to Haiti amid the sprawling mayhem. The state of emergency seems unending. And I will change off, and I'm just going to read really quickly. The American dream is dead, and in its place is rising a nightmare. This comment concerning the skyrocketing prices of American homes, these are select comments in thread from Jared's thing. So he says, most people realize they will never own a home in their lifetime and are considering climate change in their house hunting process. All right. That was pretty good, but I'm moving on. I'm moving on. No, I lost it. All right. Well, this guy, Senate Dem, says blocking weapons shipments is on the table if Israel invades, and that is Senator Chris Van Hollen. Comes among pressure from Democrats for Joe Biden to stop the shit and stop it. I'm not even going through it. It'll just get me really angry. Stop arming Israel. What they do is they provide things for Israel's defense related to the Iron Dome, but we need to stop giving them arms. Unless we want to watch Jared Kushner foam at the mouth to be, building on the Gaza Strip. All right, we're going to take a quick change, and we're going to have a little break here. And then we're coming back because I want to show you guys something. And I have a little intermission video by one of my favorite meteorologists. So hang on.
Meteorological organization released a huge assessment on the status of our climate. It is time for the Berardelli bonus. And you've heard me mention this many times before, but 2023 was by far the warmest year on record. Anywhere you see the orange or red, it was way above normal. Another way to look at it is the trend since the 1800s. And you can see, starting at around 1980 or so, temperatures have been shooting straight upward. You can see all the temperature records. This one's from NOAA, that one's from NASA, that one's from our European partners, and they all pretty much are in lockstep, showing that increase. Right now, temperatures are 1.45 degrees Celsius above where they were back in the 1800s, close to 2.5 or so degrees Fahrenheit above where they used to be. And the reason for it is because we're burning a lot of fossil fuels, releasing a lot of greenhouse gases, trapping that heat in our atmosphere, and also land use changes. We're cutting down a lot of trees. And so a lot of heat is being retained in the Earth climate system. And a lot of that, 90% of that, is retained in the ocean. You can see the oceans, this is called ocean heat content, warming up, especially in the Atlantic Ocean. You see just south of Greenland? Well, Greenland is melting. That ice is cooling it down there, slowing down the ocean conveyor belts, and so all the heat's being trapped right here to the south of it in the Atlantic Ocean, which is not great news, of course, for hurricane season because we're seeing hotter Atlantic. As you can see right here, we're seeing that warm-up of ocean heat over the past especially 30 years or so, all that heat being retained in our oceans, and that's resulting in something else.
Yes, so we're looking at marine heat waves. The orange is strong, and then anything higher than that is severe to extreme in those colors of red. And so the marine heat waves covered 93% of the oceans. That's up from 55% from the 1980s.
Yeah, so we're retaining more heat in the Earth system. If you'd like to send me a question, I can answer it. You can send it to weather@wfla.com.
And now I am back, and we're going to screen share. I want to talk about something I put up on the Facebook page. Here we go. All right. And I got answers, and I wanted to share it with you. So where are you? And this was on Of course, it was on X. So where are you? A, climate change is a problem, but things are getting better and we have other problems too. We can solve this just as we solved other problems. B, now think about where you are in this, guys. Climate change is a real challenge for society. Things are bad, but with technological innovation and smart policy, we can avoid the worst case scenarios. C, climate change poses a severe threat to humanity. We need to rebalance our political and economic priorities and double down our efforts to mitigate and adapt. Now, remember, this is concern, going to alarm. Now, D, we are running out of time to act. We need a radical restructuring of our economy and ways of living to avoid the worst case scenarios. And finally, E. We're absolutely fucked now, no matter what we do. It's time to prepare for the coming collapse. So skepticism and denial are down at the bottom, and we know what they all say. There's too much uncertainty about the impacts of anthropogenic forcing to warrant policy action on climate change, or the human impact pales in comparison to natural forces like the sun. Economic interventions will cost way more than any impact of climate change. The climate has always changed, and warming is beneficial. Stop scaring people about climate change. CO2 is plant food. Governments and activists are creating a false alarm so they can tax us and bring us socialism. George Soros and the WEF are intentionally changing the climate so that they can bring in authoritarian 5G mind control and make us eat bugs. So there you go. We're running the gamut here, aren't we? Right? So what did some of our people say? Let's see. E. A lot of E. Oh man, Helvine wishes there was an F option for we are so fucked. E. I've started stockpiling some food. It's impossible to prepare for everything I worry about, though. 5-alarm fire. Terrified of feeling doom. I'm tottering between, where is this person tottering? They are tottering between D and E. And the reply to that was me too. We have climate engineering and renewables. And Calibri is with us. Calibri Tear Sonnenblum, he answered, and I'm really working on when we're going to have him as a guest. He's personally at D, though he would not be surprised if in reality we are actually at E. Sarah Horton, I am an E because we're at D, and I just don't see the change that needs to be happening. And Anthony said C and D respectively. I wish it were B, but I think we are beyond that stage now. And Pedigree Monkey, it's more like F. We are falling already. Falling, and we can't prepare for the impact. Hi, Emerald View. I'm a D to an E. I have some wispy remnants of hopium left, and it would seem most of the denialists on Twitter are 4 or 5. Of course, those of us in DRE have the backing of data, science, and increasingly direct observation. And Chris is on the border of D and E. And Rich says civilization is dim-witted. Some people realize that the business as usual isn't going to turn it around, but most don't. Even if carbon emissions continue to rise with new renewables, it can be considered a step toward the realization that only degrowth will make a difference, but we all know that won't happen. Audio Pervert said we could rotate within the zones. On a daily, weekly basis, perhaps the energy crisis appears new every time, right? And Stella said E, 100%. Tennessee Jet, E is for Elliot Jacobson and me. So what do you think, guys? See where our people are? Our followers are between E, more like F. A lot of them said F. E, acceptance. Hey, Bill, enjoy the day. Gazer's at the far end of D. Edit, as in almost E. Gaz from the UK. And hi, Audrey. Audrey, E. E. Eek. 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 Hoops, he said D, and Jarko said F, and there was between D and E. C or D, some days E, although I don't think we can stop it. But most days I cling to some hope. E and D. So on that wonderful concern, alarm, skepticism, denial, that's where people are. They are pretty much at the, well, pretty concerned, scared. Yeah, I would say. All right. So, been an interesting show tonight. And I hope you all enjoyed it. You know, it's funny how my screen says that there are 162 watching. And then I look at the live chat on YouTube and it says 62. And I don't even know. I didn't even put it on Twitch. I don't know who's watching on Twitter. I don't know who's watching on Facebook. You know, sometimes it does. I think the numbers are all screwed up. I totally think the numbers are all screwed up. Yeah. You wish you would have answered when you saw it last night? Well, you can answer now. I'll put it up. I'll put it up. All right. Now I'm going to say thank you to the Super Chats. Thank you, Kristen Rose. I wish we could see the pictures this way, but obviously they don't show. Thank you. That was quite lovely. And Nadia back home. Thank you, Nadia, my biggest supporter. I'm back from Berlin. I couldn't see climate damage there, though there did seem to be fallout from neoliberalism with graffiti and things being run down. It still looked better than the USA. A lot better. Thank you, Nadia. I love you. The trick with Shadovsky's regime rotation is capitalists will just depose Netanyahu or any other leader people get angry with and then just continue the policies they were ostensibly disposed for after. Yeah, I know that's pretty, it sounds negative, but it seems like that's the shit, huh? That's what's going on. All right, guys, let's see. We are family. We need each other. Yes. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to say goodnight. And Stephen, what do you say? Stephen says, mountains without volcanoes are your friends in the coming reality. Yeah, are they, huh? And hi, Donald James. Tim Bob, I don't fucking know. Good luck to you. I'm just fucking out my ass. It's no big deal. Okay, what are you guys talking about? What happened in the chat? What happened in the chat? Oh, Miss Climate Agent. You got to watch her latest video. She did a speech on libraries, and it was really good. Libraries are excellent. I am like a soldier at the front lines. I don't have time to think about hope or whether we can win. I'm just doing my warrior zen duty at each moment. I like that. That's great, Karen. I love it. Winning to the end. Oh, yeah. Oh, hospice. Well, yeah, we are in hospice. Just like all the goddamn half of the cats I have are in hospice here. All right. Well, listen, thank you. I hope you guys had a good time in the chat. I love you guys. And I don't know if Jim's going to be with me Friday or not. I'm not sure about Friday who's going to be with me, if it's Jen, Jim, or a surprise. I kind of would like Jen, but if she can't, I'd like Jim, because then we could talk about AMOC again. You know, not that we haven't talked about AMOC 150 times, but whatever. All right. Good night. Mwah. Peace. Join, like, subscribe, buy me a coffee and all that good shit. And don't forget to like the stream. Don't be afraid. Thank you for those memberships. Woo! Look at that. Who did that? I didn't get to see who did it. Holy shit. Nadia, did you give me another one? E, or something further on climate realism is where I'm at. If it's not the Permian Triassic, it'll be Venus. 250 million years of solar luminosity. Increase will get the global warming potential with less CO2. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Brett. You're fucking amazing.